Benjamin Netanyahu started this war. So he provoked actually this crisis, this war. I'm especially referring not to State of Israel, but Benjamin Netanyahu, because it's his war. He is trying to hold on power. He is trying to save his political stand, his political career. He has a lot of problems inside Israel. The government is on the brink of dismissal. We have, in June, we're supposed to have new elections. He has a few criminal suits in the court against him. And there are few very significant issues which he must give answer to. One of the issues is Qatar Gate, because it became clear that some of his consultants were actually recruited by Qatar. Qatar is the main sponsor of Hamas. Before the war, during the war, and after the war. Nobody knows exactly if Benjamin Netanyahu has anything to do with the connection with Qatar, because Qatar was supplying Hamas with weapons, with cash money, with all kind of other deliveries. Maybe he was recruiting militants for the Hamas. So this is one scandal. Second scandal, Benjamin Netanyahu have to give some answers, because he is responsible for the 7th of October attack in 2023. And besides these two main issues, he has also 3 files in the court regarding corruption. Okay, so as you can see, a lot of things is on him. He might not survive the coming elections. However, the right is on his side, the extreme right, which is the neo-Zionists. They are in coalition with Benjamin Netanyahu. The ultra-Orthodox religious parties also with him in coalition. And the one more crisis is because they are not willing to serve in the IDF, in Israeli Defense Forces. And Israeli Defense Forces is desperately needs for resupply of personnel. So we have this kind of very, very acute crisis going on right now. So basically many people call it Netanyahu war. And he made this provocation, and he put Donald Trump in a situation where Donald Trump had no choice. He had to get involved in this war, and everything was actually planned from the beginning, in my opinion. Donald Trump pulled his naval military forces towards Iranian shores for almost 2 months before the attack, before the actual attack. One disappointing point is that during the negotiations in Switzerland between Iran and the United States, Israel attacked Iran. So we will never know how could these negotiations end. Maybe we could reach some kind of agreement, maybe not. But the negotiations were not exhausted. So they even haven't been given a chance to negotiate with Iran. And this is why I consider it as a Benjamin Netanyahu war. There is a danger. One, France sent its carrier, Charles de Gaulle, towards Persian Gulf. So now we have France already been drawn to this conflict. Great Britain now is allowing US Air Forces to use its military base in Cyprus. So now we have also Great Britain involved deeply in this conflict. We have a very, very tense situation between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Both of them border with Iran. This is the third potential point of friction. We have also China, which is beginning to suffer greatly because of this war, because Hormuz is being blocked and China is receiving most of its gas and oil from Iran through this pass. So we have now Chinese also suffering from this conflict. We already have we already witness rise in oil prices all over the world, and we have the macroeconomic Silk roads. Most of them are blocked because of the war, because of the Hormuz blocking, and a lot of military action in the Indian Ocean, and most of the Chinese goods are going through Indian Ocean, through Hormuz, towards Europe. So Europe also will suffer macroeconomically, for sure. And Iran is targeting Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain. So we are witnessing an expansion of this conflict. I don't think it will bring to World War III, but it will definitely transform from local to regional. Before 1978, before Iranian Islamic Revolution, Iran was the closest ally of Israel in the Middle East. Israel was supporting Iranian special forces. It was building actually Iranian intelligence, which is called Savak. Israel built some infrastructure objects inside Iran, including nuclear plant for medical purposes. And Israel was very, very close ally, and Iran was very close ally of Israel, and Israel was very close ally of Iran. However, in 1978, this Iranian Islamic Revolution happened, and the new regime, which is basically very religious, sometimes very radically religious regime, they expelled all the Western powers from Iran, including France, Great Britain, United States, and Israel, and began what we call it export of Iranian Islamic Revolution towards all its neighbors in the Middle East and in Persian Gulf. The second problem, you ask what is the problem between Israel and Iran? The second problem is that Iran is sponsoring couple of few terrorist organizations which are fighting Israel. One of them is Hezbollah in Lebanon. Second is Hamas in Gaza Strip. A third one is Yemeni Houthis. The third problem is that Iran is trying to achieve a nuclear weapon. We don't know, I hope we will never know, is Iran is aiming to use this nuclear weapon against Israel or against the Sunni states of the Persian Gulf, like United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, because they are also enemies of Iran. So it's Sunnis against Shia. But there is another enemy of Iran. They don't call us the State of Israel, they call us a Zionist regime. So basically, the Iranians don't have problems with Jews. They have problems with Zionists. Let me just remind you that there always was a huge Jewish community, and there still is a huge Jewish community inside Iran. There are synagogues, there are some deputies, Jewish deputies inside the Iranian parliament. There are some officers inside the military, the chief of staff of Iranian military forces. So there are many Jews, a lot of Iranian Jews inside Iran. So conflict is not against the Jews. The conflict is against the Zionists. This is why they always call us Zionist regime. They never use the word Israel. They always use the term Zionist regime. So as you can see, we have three major problems. One, the export of Islamic revolution. Second, trying to achieve nuclear weapon. And third, they are against the Zionist regime. So this is three focal points of the conflict between Israel and Iran. This is double politics, absolutely. Let me say a few words about nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons, this is an offensive weapon. It's never been and never can be a defensive weapon. Every state which has a nuclear weapon, it's for to use it in case of offense or the nuclear deterrence. Now, the theory of nuclear deterrence actually is very effective because since we first, the world first actually achieved nuclear capability, it was almost 100 years ago in the 30s of the previous century. Actually, by the way, the Germans were the first to achieve nuclear synthesis in their laboratories. And the second who did it was the Americans. And they are the first and the last who used it against Japan in 1945. So, however, since 1945 until this very day, also during the Cold War, etc., after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, during the Soviet Union, we witnessed that there was no Third World War because both of the enemies, the Soviet communists and the Western Democrats, they had and still have nuclear weapon. It proves that the theory of nuclear deterrence actually works. And there are some specialists and consultants who actually say, even academics, they say that once Iran actually achieve a nuclear weapon, there will be peace in the Middle East because the deterrence will be between Israel and Iran. Because if Israel has nuclear weapon and Iran will have a nuclear weapon, nobody will begin the war. You ask me why is actually United States was compelled to be involved in this war. One of the reasons is not so because of the Benjamin Netanyahu, but because of the very, very strong Israeli lobby inside Washington. We have multiple lobbies inside United States of America. We have Jewish lobby. We have Israeli lobby. This is different lobbies. We have Zionist lobby, which is the same as Israeli. And we have anti-Zionist Jewish lobby. Actually, Jews who live in diaspora, they are, in most of the cases, they are against Israel. One example is George Soros, who is actually financing anti-Israeli revolts and riots all over Europe and inside the United States. He is like a left Democrat. He is a Jew, but he is against Zionism and against Israel. And there are a few people like him, very strong people. He has a strong George Soros Foundation, which is funding anti-Israeli organizations. So we have this Israeli Zionist lobby, which is very rich and very strong, and they are actually pushing any United States president. It doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump, tomorrow it will be maybe Marco Rubio, yesterday it was Barack Obama, then it was Joe Biden, then it was Donald Trump. Donald Trump will leave his office next year because they have elections, but it doesn't matter who is the president. The lobby stays the same. And the stronger the Israeli Zionist lobby, the more United States are being drawn to conflicts which are not answering their direct interests. However, there is one more issue which is very important. Israel is being used also. United States is being used by Israel, but Israel also is being used by United States. United States is now, when Donald Trump is in power, they are trying to control as much oil around the whole world as possible. Recently, in January, they succeeded to take all the Venezuelan oil because they arrested Maduro and they made invasion in Venezuela. Next in line is the second largest exporter of oil is Iran. So they are trying to put control of most of the energetic supplies, oil and gas, around the world. So, in my opinion, Israel was only a pretext for operation against Iran. The final goal is to take Iranian oil. And in this case, Israel was used, let's say, regional aggressor. The same happened in 1956 when Israel attacked Egypt, because Egypt was nationalizing the Suez Canal. And the Suez Canal was, it was property of Great Britain and France. So they used Israel to first to attack Egypt, and they came to help Israel, and three of them attacked Egypt. The same happened today. Israel was first. It was a preemptive strike to protect Israel from Iran, but immediately the next morning, United States came to assist Israel, but the main goal is actually to take out the Iranian regime and to take control on Iranian oil. The correct question would be how the Republican Party, because Trump cannot be once again United States president, because according to American Constitution, only 2 terms. So next year he will not be a president, not because he will lose the elections, but because he cannot be on a 3rd term. However, the question is whether the Republicans will come to power or the Democrats will come to power. Now, this is a big fight. Now, your question is absolutely correct. Will the war with Iran affect the coming elections? In my opinion, yes, because the Democrats all already said that Trump is leading United States to a disaster, because it's not our war. We don't need to send our soldiers again thousands of kilometers from American shores. We have no major interest except Israel in the Middle East and Persian Gulf. So if Donald Trump will win this war and he will achieve a striking victory, the Republicans will win. But if United States will suffer major casualties, they will lose. This idea belongs not to all Jews in the world. It belongs only to a specific group of Jews. This is religious Zionists, which are extremely religious. They are extreme right party, and their end game is to recover the great Israel. And you're absolutely right. They stand behind Benjamin Netanyahu. They are willing to take Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, Iraq, and if it's possible, to finish with Iran, with the Iranian nuclear program, and to rebuild the great Israel. Yes, absolutely. But this is a very extreme idea. And they are trying to achieve it, but they have a lot of obstacles on their way. For example, the left wing inside Israel is working against the right wing. The left wing doesn't want any great Israel. They actually support recognition of Palestinian state, and they want to finish the Arab-Israeli conflict almost at any price. So, and they are becoming very strong now in Israel for the last few years. This is the main obstacle to recover the great Israel. But, and here again, we are going back to Benjamin Netanyahu. As long as Benjamin Netanyahu is in power, this radical group will, I am absolutely sure, will try to recover great Israel and will continue the war until they take most of the land of Middle East. I really highly suggest you watch Tucker Carlson interview with the US ambassador in Israel, and he asks him a very, very provocative questions, and he asked I remind you, U.S. ambassador in Israel, he is not a Jewish, he is a Christian, and Tucker Carlson asked him, are you okay with the program of the radical right to recover and take all the neighbor states to rebuild Great Israel? The ambassador says, yes, I'm fine with that. If they want, they can take it. So it's a huge problem inside the United States. The Christians, they are against war. We know all Christians, they don't want war. They want the Messiah to come, and they are willing to achieve peace in the whole world. And they are, until today, they were with the Israeli Zionists, because the whole idea of Christians, evangelists, and Zionists is to protect Jerusalem. But the event of 7th of October 2023 changed a lot of things. Now the Christian evangelists, actually after Israeli operation in Gaza, with thousands of casualties among children and among women, they are turning slowly but surely, they're turning against Israel. Let me remind you that Tucker Carlson, before like 5 or 6 years, he was one of the most fanatic supporters of Israel. Now he is absolutely against Israeli politics. And the Christians were very, very strong supporters also inside American politics. The Christian lobby was actually supporting everywhere the Zionist lobby. Now Zionist lobby has a very huge problem inside the United States because it ran out of supporters. So, and their power is weakening from day to day, from month to month. They have less and less power and less leverage on American politicians. So this is a crisis of the Zionism. I call it a crisis of Zionism. And it might actually bring Zionism to an end. For example, once they proclaim in a UN Council, they actually vote for the independence of the Palestinian state, it will be the end of Zionism. First of all, you are a NATO member. So you are already, not directly, but indirectly, you are already in this conflict. You became part of this conflict the day the wheels of the American plane touched your ground. You're already inside this conflict, okay? But you are now not participating directly, but you are a military base of United States Army, okay? Let's put it this way. Second, until this very moment, actually, I don't know, being an expert, I am not sure that all these major military efforts, you had to close your Sofia airport for a few days because of the arrival of American planes. So I am not sure, is this preparation against war against Iran or a war against Russia? Because you are much closer to the borders of Russia than the borders of Iran. Why United States didn't put these planes like in Portugal, Italy, or Spain? Because it's much closer to the Middle East. So you have to pay attention. You have to consider why they chose Bulgaria, why they chose your state to put a lot of military gear on your soil. Maybe it's aimed against future conflict about which we actually don't know anything against Russia. So let's put it this way. Let's go back to Iran. If the Western-Iranian war will continue and NATO will begin to take a major part in this war, and it already does, because as I said, France now became a side of this war. It sends its naval forces to assist United States. Great Britain is already a part of this war. If this war will prolong and if there will be a land operation, so they put boots on the ground on Iranian soil, I can assure you that the United States will take some of your soldiers and send it to the Middle East, as they did in Afghanistan. So you actually might become a part of this war, yes. It's not hard to expect what is going to be, what kind of development will be in the near few weeks. One reason is because United States actually, they are leading this war from high seas. They base their forces on water because they have a naval group outside the Iranian shores. It means that they cannot stay for long on the water. They have to supply and resupply themselves. They have to take water, food, gas, oil for their planes. They have to resupply ammunition. They are running out of these supplies. So sooner or later, I expect in a few weeks to 1 month maximum from now on, they will either have to go to negotiations with Iran or they will have to leave the area for resupply. The third scenario, which is the worst in my case, is to begin a land operation, because some of the ships which actually assist Lincoln carrier, they have ground troops on their ships. These ground troops are planned to land on the Iranian soil. Once they begin to run out of supplies on the sea, they will either leave the region or they will begin a land operation. Now, land operation is absolutely different kind of war with a lot of casualties, a lot of logistics, a lot of efforts, and a lot of resources. It's much more expensive to lead a ground war than a war in ocean, on the water. The military regiments on water, they have a very limited time of action. As I said, few weeks, and they will begin running out of the supplies. For Iranian regime, what is most important at this moment is to stay as long as possible without going to negotiations or without suffering major casualties. Either United States will actually compel Iran to announce that they lost the war and come to negotiate a peace agreement. If Iran will be able to hold on for the next few weeks without negotiations with the West, I think the initiative will be from the American side to begin negotiations, because, as I said, they will have to decide either to begin ground forces war or to leave the region. And this is the most crucial time for Iran. Either they capitulate or they succeed to hold on for the next months. And this is a very decisive time now, the next few weeks. We will see what will happen. Either Iran will be deceived and capitulate, or United States will have to decide, because they cannot stay very long on the sea. And this is a major problem. In order to send ground forces, it's huge logistics. They will have to send ground forces from Saudi Arabia, from Iraq, from United Arab Emirates, to take some forces from Europe. And here we're going back to your country. They will absolutely, I am absolutely sure, they will take some regiments from the NATO member countries: Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Italy, France is already in the war, Belgium, etc., Netherlands, and it will be a major problem for the West. So let's put it in perspective. We have only Iran and almost the whole Western states with a war with only Iran. So from Iranian perspective, it will be a victory. From the Western perspective, it will be major crisis.